channel. I have been away for a while. It's been a while. I did have that one video I posted a few weeks ago, and thank you if you watched that. Particularly thank you if you watched that when what you're really interested in is just my crafting endeavours and my cross stitch and those sorts of things. It was a little bit different sort of a video, and I explained in the show notes what it was and why it was there, and it's not what I plan to keep having on my channel in the future. Welcome, particularly though if you are new here. Because of that, a few people subscribed as a result of that. I hope you won't be disappointed with the normal kind of content I have, and particularly welcome back if you've been a subscriber since before Christmas and are wondering what on earth has happened and have I just dropped off the face of the earth. I'm not going to go into long detail about it, but just to say, basically I've been ill. So between Christmas and Easter, I had fatigue, sort of low level, just not feeling very well. And I was traveling quite a lot for work and just didn't have the energy to get around to a floss tube. I'd started to feel better a week or two before Easter. I had a week off just before Easter and I was planning to catch up on lots of things. I'd sort the house out, do some gardening, but also get around to a floss tube. And then I got COVID, and I was quite ill with COVID for a couple of weeks, and I've been recovering really for the last 6 or 7 weeks now. I'm mostly better at this point. I'm feeling like I've got more energy than I have. I can do things. I'm excited about things. There are still 1 or 2 lingering symptoms, which I have seen doctors about and have had tests for, and there's nothing to be panicked about, but I just am not completely 100% back to full strength. And one of the issues that I am struggling with is my left hand has got some sensitivity issues. So I'm finding it quite hard to do some of the crafts that I normally do. Knitting, for example, where I've got to be constantly manipulating things with my left hand, I haven't even tried because I just don't think it would be enjoyable at all. So all of that, what I have found is when I was just feeling tired, and then when I was ill, and even now while I've still got this issue with my hand, the craft that I have spent, the only craft really that I have done since before Christmas is cross stitch. So this will be like a proper floss tube, cross stitch all the way kind of video. Given that it's been nearly 6 months, I don't think I've got a ton of stuff, but I have got quite a lot for, you know, plenty for a whole video's worth. I've also got, I'm going to do a review of Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher magazine later on in the video, and talk about that a little bit. And I've got some haul, and I've got some plans that I'd love to share with you and invite you to join in with me if you'd like. So I'm going to start with finished objects. Well, I'm going to start with fully finished objects, so things that are like ready to hang on the wall, or, you know, be whatever they're going to be. These are both things to hang on the wall, actually. I've got some things where I've finished the cross stitching, but they're not yet completed into what they will finally be, so I'll show you those. I've got a couple of things that are in progress, and some haul and some plans, and like I say, some things that I'd like to invite you to join in with me. So I'm going to start with finished objects, and this is the first one. And if you are a regular viewer of mine, you will not be surprised to see this one. This is my Carmen Sampler. She is a reproduction sampler based on an original unfinished sampler that I bought a year or so ago, and I've charted. The charts for this are freely available on my website. I will put the link in the description box below. This is stitched pretty much as an accurate reproduction of Carmen. The only thing I've changed is here. So she'd stitched her name, Carmen M. Luce, aged 9 YEA. And that's where it's unfinished. And I assume, had she finished it, she would have finished spelling the word years, and then she might have put in the date when she stitched it, or something about her location, maybe, or something that would give us identifying information. Anyway, she didn't, and so it left this kind of last half of this line empty, which you can see the rest of the sampler is really full. There are no gaps on this sampler. So I wanted to finish it off, and I've stitched my name, Rosalind S. Clark, that's my full name, aged 47, YEA, to match hers. I've since had a birthday, so I'm 48, but when I finished this, I was 47. So that is Carmen Sampler. I used my Sulky colorway conversion. You can find that on the website as well as a DMC conversion, a Classic Colorworks conversion, and an Anchor conversion. I do think, however, you know, this is a sampler which is basically just alphabets and borders. You could stitch it in any colorway you like. I think it would look really fabulous as a sort of red work or black work sampler stitched in a monochrome way. You could stitch it in really faded primitive colours. You could stitch it in really bright colours. You could stitch it in a sort of red and green colourway. I love those red and green samplers that you sometimes get. So you could do whatever you want with the stitching. I've also included on the website options if you don't want to do the stitching over one, or if you don't want to do the specialty stitches. So this alphabet here is all stitched in eyelets, and this alphabet here and here is stitched in four-sided stitch. That is how Carmen did it, and that's how I've done it, but I have given you options for things you might do. This four-sided stitch alphabet, for example, I mean, obviously you could just stitch that with cross stitches, but you will then find it's almost an exact replica of the first alphabet. So rather than stitching the same alphabet twice, I've given you a suggestion of what else you might do with that. So those are all on the website. The sampler, brilliantly, comes out to be, I think it's about 11.5 by 11.25 on 32 count linen. I want to say it's a little while since I did this. I think it's 32 count. It might be 36 count. It's on the website with all the instructions. If you do it in that, which is basically the size that Carmen used, you will end up with a finished sampler. It's about 11.25 by 11.5. It fits perfectly, therefore, in a standard 12 by 12 frame. So I bought this frame just from Amazon. I think it was about £12. And I like it in this sort of dark wood effect. I don't think it's even real wood. It's a pretty, you know, cheap and cheerful frame, but it's exactly what I wanted for this sampler. I haven't used any glass, and I just put it in there. And then what I did, I'm not going to show you this because it is all now tidied away. I wanted to keep the original sampler, which is not in great condition. It's very faded and stained, and there are some places even where the threads are worn away. So I wanted to keep it together with the reproduction, but I also wanted to keep it in a way that it wouldn't suffer any further damage. It wouldn't be exposed to sunlight or damage in whatever way. So all I did was I laced my sampler, my reproduction, onto a piece of mat board with batting underneath it. And then on the back of that, I just loosely tacked Carmen's original just around the edge. So it's sort of here, just loosely tacked it around the edge so that it's not under any tension, but it's also flat. And then I just put the back of the, I can't remember, I think I maybe put a piece of fabric or something covering it, and then the back of this on the back of that. So if in the future anyone unframes this, they will find the original and they will have my copy of that. And because my copy has both names on it, hopefully it will be really clear that I stitched this version copying Carmen's original. There are also options here if you don't want to include Carmen's name, if you want to stitch this is the bit that's over one. Yeah, I've included an alphabet that you could use if you wanted to stitch that over two, or if you're doing it on Ada. So that's Carmen, and I'm really pleased with her. I basically worked on her throughout December and January, keeping up with my own schedule for posting each section of the chart, and so then I finished her in quite a timely way. I really enjoy, by the way that Carmen used her colours. So each alphabet is not in a single colour except for this lowercase alphabet. They're all sort of changing colours every couple of letters, and I just think that makes for a really fun looking sampler. So I enjoyed that very much, Carmen. So that's Carmen. The second thing I finished, I honestly can't really remember what order I stitched all of these in, but this is the other thing that is fully finished. So let me show you that. That is from the Caterpillar Cross Stitch Club. So I talked to you a little bit about the Caterpillar Cross Stitch Club before on some of my videos, and I'll put a link to it below if you're interested in signing up for it. I did a piece last summer, which was a design by Emma Congdon, Here Comes the Sun, and I did a penguin piece at Christmas from them. One of the things I like about the club is that before each box comes out, quite a way before, like maybe 6 weeks before, you get an idea of what the next box's theme will be. And then I think certainly before you have to commit to that box, there's also a link if you really want a sneak peek to see what the actual design is. And so I haven't done every box. I didn't do the autumn one last year that I didn't really fancy, and I haven't signed up for the July box, which is the next one coming out, although I'm maybe slightly regretting that. But anyway, this box was the February box. It is a design by Max Pigeon of Pigeon Coop Designs. If you've seen any of his designs, you will recognise his style instantly. He does these very stylized landscapes with geometric patterns and with a sort of white outline to it. Now, if you have seen what the pattern and finished project was supposed to look like from this box, you'll see I've made some changes. The main change I made was to change the fabric. So all of the club boxes come with 14 count Aida. Usually it's white, but not always. The most recent one I've got, which I haven't started, is a light pink Aida for a sort of butterfly flower design. So this one came with 14 count white Aida. And the thing I had thought about immediately when I saw the design was I wanted to stitch it smaller. I didn't want it to be, it would have been, I think, the whole, normally they come to fit if you want to finish them in a 7-inch hoop. And I just felt that was too big. I didn't want that. I wanted it on a smaller count. So this is 40 count. It is 40 count Zweigart linen in the colourway Lagoon. And I just thought that colourway went really perfectly with the colourway. So the club boxes are a kit. You get the pattern, the fabric, the needle, you get all the DMC floss on there. You'll have seen them before, I'm sure, the Caterpillar cross stitch style, I'm just looking for it, floss holders that are all sort of carefully labelled up, and here we are, like this. So all the flosses are there, you get loads, you can see how much I've got left. I mean, to be fair, I've used less because I've done this, but you always get loads, and they're all carefully labelled, and then you've got a place to store sort of spare cut threads and the slit on this side which holds the threads in place. So you get all of that in the club box. You also always get, oh, I'd forgotten, but I am going to tell you about this. You get some extra little bits that are related usually to the theme of the box. So with this, there was a little stationery thing, I think. I can't quite remember, maybe a little notebook or something. But also there was some wildflower seed planting sticks. So that's quite fun. And I must find them out and actually plant them. It's a bit late probably, but I think I will still try and do that. And you also get an edible treat. And usually that's something sweet and yummy. So in the Christmas box with the penguin, it was 3 of those Lindor truffles, the red ones. Really yummy. Anyway, because this I guess was a sort of green environmental kind of themed box, what we got was a naked bar, N-A-K-D. I mean, it was revolting. That is all I have to say about that. I had one bite and I was like, I'm not eating this. It's absolutely disgusting. So, you know, that wasn't my favourite thing. Normally you get something much nicer. That's how that works. Yeah, so different count, so a much smaller version, and different coloured linen. And so what that meant was the sort of white lines on the original design are not charted. You don't stitch them, and it's just then the white of the Aida that shows through. So I had to stitch mine on here. There we go. Let me just, you don't need to see me, you can just look at that. And so I used some floss that I had in my stash. It is Classic Colourworks Green Onion, which is a kind of grey, pale grey, maybe a slightly greenish grey, but actually I think works really well here. And so I stitched the moon and then the outline, and then I decided to stitch a double thickness outline circle around the whole thing. You may be looking at that and thinking, it doesn't look very circular, Roz. It's not. This is because I think probably accurately I would need to say my version is inspired by the original pattern. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes is what I'm saying. It's a long time since I'd stitched on 40 count linen, like probably when I was a teenager 30 years ago. And I didn't have the right needle to begin with. I was using a sharp needle and that was a disaster. And so there were a number of places where I ended up stitching half stitches or 1.5 stitches and then having to try to bodge it because I was like, I'm not undoing this, and then misreading the pattern. So I've ended up, I did do some corrections at the end. It's not a perfect circle. I am fine with it. It's going to go up on my wall, actually sort of above up here where you can see nobody's going to be looking at it that closely. The stitch is very tiny because it's on 40 count linen, and I don't think it detracts from the overall intention of the design. So I'm really pleased with that. And this frame, I actually had this frame already and it had a different piece in it. It used to have this in it. I can't remember the name of the person who designed this. I bought it on Etsy. I will link it below. But the frame, this frame was really too small for this. You could just about get it in with all the stitches in there, but it looked really cramped and it was white on white and I didn't really love that. So I took the frame off here, ironed it and put the frame on here, and I think that works really nicely. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to do it smaller, actually, so that it would fit in this frame and therefore not on a white fabric. Yeah, so like I say, really pleased with that. I don't know if you can buy this design. It was obviously in the subscription box for me, but have a look. If you like it, definitely have a look at Pigeon Coop Designs, because as I say, he has a very distinctive style, and you, if you like this, will certainly find something there that I think you would enjoy stitching, and I would consider stitching something by him again. I think it was a really fun stitch. I mean, it is full coverage, and most of his designs are more or less full coverage unless you do them on the white background, but it's not huge. And it's really fun, those sort of trees with the chevrons and the stripes in the sky and the little patterns in the fields. Each little section is fun to stitch and not huge. So for a more or less full coverage piece, it's actually quite easy to break up and feels quite manageable. So those are the two things that are fully finished and ready to go. For this one, by the way, what I plan to do is just a hoop finish. So a bigger hoop that it sits in nicely, but I'd like to make some kind of, maybe like a sort of rainbow trim around it. I was sort of half wondering about making some mini bunting and stitching that around, or maybe if I find like a rainbow pom-pom trim or something like that. I just feel like it maybe needs something a little bit fun with it. It's a little bit, I don't know, my colours are not solemn and serious, and I don't think the lettering is, and actually it's quite a cheerful saying. It is well with my soul. It's, you know, it's a positive thing. So I'd like something that just gives it that sort of more cheerful feel to it in the finish. So I'm on the lookout for that, or I might try making something. Now I've just realized I've forgotten a very important thing for the next thing I'm going to show you. I will be back in half a second. There we go. In fact, I might not even edit that out. I don't know. I'll see how much of my, you know, cleavage you manage to see in that. So this is the second thing. No, the next thing, whatever thing. Anyway, I've finished the cross stitch on this, is what I mean to say. So this is, I probably need something to, let's use that to hold this up on. There we go. You can see that. and just about see me at the same time. So this says, life is the most wonderful fairy tale. You may recognise that quote. It's Hans Christian Andersen of fairy tale fame. He actually said, I think, life itself is the most wonderful fairy tale, but I have abbreviated it. So this is a design. Can you see all the fairy tales? There's Red Riding Hood, the Frog Prince, there's Aladdin's lamp is in there. Up here we've got the Three Little Pigs and then Puss in Boots. This is Hansel and Gretel's cottage. There are some bluebirds. And then there's this sort of tree, which you might like to think of as an apple tree from Snow White, that's right. And then all sort of jumbled around the lettering. I really had fun with this. This is my own design, and I am not really intending to release this as a chart. It's certainly, I mean, I've stitched it with every kind of imaginable scrap, and I cannot identify all the threads that I've used, for example. I guess I could release the chart if people really wanted it, and you'd have to work out your own colours for it. But it was really an experiment. So one night back in January, I think, I was struggling to sleep, and as I was struggling to sleep, my brain was kind of whirring, and I was thinking about drums and the way that some people finish their cross stitches into drums. And I was like, well, it just seems an awful lot of effort to me to sort of make your own drum. Surely there must be something that we all have in our homes that's a cylindrical thing that we could just use as the base of a drum and design a cross stitch chart that fits precisely around that. And if it's a standard thing, then that chart would work for a lot of people. And also then I thought, well, if you're doing that and you're making it for something that's a standard size, you could design it not only so it fits top to bottom on the thing you're using, but also so that it fits exactly around the circumference. So if you look at the two ends of the chart, and I don't know how easy it would be to see this, I'm going to try and fold it in a minute so you can see it better, but these join up. This tree is the same as this tree. Let me see if I can show you how that works. You won't be able to see it perfectly because I won't be able to hold it up perfectly, but if we put it, okay, let me see how that looks. Okay, so there's a little bit there because of the way of folding, but hopefully you can see those two edges are designed to go together. And that is a clue to how I am going to finish it. Let me show you the other part of the stitching, which is here. It's a little toadstool with a fairy. I can't think of a specific fairy tale that has a toadstool with a fairy, but they both seemed like the kind of things that would fit within my fairy tale theme. Before I forget to go any further, this is 28 count even weave in blue spruce. Again, it's just as Zweigart, not a hand-dyed fabric. So it's Zweigart 28 count blue spruce even weave. Okay, so what am I going to use this for? Well, here is what I came up with in my moment of inspiration in the middle of the night. A Pringles can. Okay, Pringles, I think you get them in most places, don't you? And I think, I could be wrong about this, but I think the cans are relatively standard size. So this is a UK Pringles can. It says UK and Ireland on the back of it. So this is the size I've got. Obviously this is the 40 gram sort of what they laughingly think of as a single serving of Pringles there. And I thought actually that would be a really nice size to make as a finished object. It's got a lid, and I did think maybe I would use this lid, but my current plan is probably not to use the plastic lid. That's what it looks like inside. It's got a nice sturdy tin bottom, and this is just cardboard around the side, but again it's quite sturdy. So what I have done is I have eaten the Pringles, great sacrifice, and I have wiped out very thoroughly. So you don't want to submerge it to wash it because it will, the cardboard will obviously warp, but I wipe mine. I might need to wipe it again. I think this has had other things in it since actually, but anyway, I will wipe it out thoroughly just with a wet wipe and being careful not to get it too wet. But you definitely want to get out all of the crumbs and the sort of salty oiliness that might be lingering in there from the Pringles. And so then the plan is that this will go around the edge, and it's a little bit tricky because I haven't cut the fabric down to size yet, as you can see. I've been sort of putting it off because I think I want to be quite careful about it, and careful finishing is not my best thing, and I've not been feeling terribly well, so I was just like, I'm not going to try and do it when I'm ill because I will ruin it. Now this circumference is slightly bigger because of all the fabric folded under, but hopefully you can see that's going to fit around, and hopefully I'm going to try and sew it in the way that will have a sort of almost invisible seam, so it will feel like the design just goes continuously around the can. And then I'm going to make a lid that will then have the little toadstool fairy on top. Will fit like that. So that is my plan. And so then this will be a pot that you can open. So not just a drum that you can stick pins in or a spool that just looks decorative. It will actually be functional, and that's quite important to me. My house is very small. I'm running out of very quickly of wall space where I can put things. I've got a space in mind for Carmen and for the pigeon coop design that I've just showed you. But everything I make, I have to think quite hard about where will it go and how will it earn its place. So making something that is also functional is a really good thing for me. And I have a plan for what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to line it. I'm going to put a pin cushion in the bottom of it, so you'll be able to store pins in there. And then on the bottom of the lid, I plan to attach a needle minder, so that you'll be able to put your needle in there, your pins in the bottom. There'll probably be room for like a mini pair of thread snips, maybe a tape measure, something like that. And then the lid will sit on top, and it'll be a nice little you know, useful thing to have by you while you stitch. Because of the way I'm planning to do the lid, I'm not sure I would say it would be absolutely the best thing for travel stitching. If you're cleverer than I am, you might be able to work out a way of maintaining this sort of closure with the plastic lid that gives you more travel worthiness of holding it together. I am not going to promise to do a tutorial of that. I am not the best at finishing things. I'm not the best at filming myself doing things. So I think what I'm going to try and do is take photos at different stages, and then next time, hopefully I will have the finished thing to show you and some photos explaining a little bit of what I did along the way. We will see. So that is Pringle's pin and needle holder pot tutorial plans things, but the cross stitching, as I say, is finished for that. I think, yes, those are the sort of finished things. Let me show you a couple of other things that I have been working on. First of all, this is what I'm slightly obsessed with at the moment. This is Wilbur. Wilbur is by Teresa Kogut. I bought it as a PDF pattern on Etsy. I don't know if you can get it as a paper pattern, but possibly. This is Wilbur the Pig. I love him. I love him. He is a bit yellow, and that is because I have not used her floss colour scheme thing. I've used some that I did have in stash, and then I have substituted others as best I can. I haven't really gone out and compared things. It's quite difficult here. You know, I don't know that's the locally that stocks any fancy flosses, so it's quite difficult to compare those if you haven't got them in person. And even some of the DMC, I've just used a sort of standard DMC to anchor conversion because that's what I have. I think some of these have ended up a bit yellower than possibly the original was. I mean, it's not a million miles away. I'll put a picture in so you can see the sort of finished model stitch. It is not a million miles away, and I think it works fine. I think this page that I still haven't started will have a much pinker tinge to it, so his whole body won't be yellow. It does get pinker over here, and obviously there's more pink to fit in the ear this side, and I'm planning him to be a hoop finish. So I've sort of penciled a circle. There we go, let's get the hoop in the right place. Penciled a circle on the fabric, and that's how I'm stitching him. So hopefully he will just sort of, in the original, it's a square finish, and he's sort of looking out from the corner of the square. So I'm more or less just cutting off a little bit in the corner here, so that he will poke out within the hoop. And he is stitched on. This is a printed even weave, so you can see on the back it's, can you see? On the back it's just white, and on the front it's printed with this kind of rustic white board, and it gets a bit grimier down here, although I think on mine you won't see a lot of the grime, but that's okay. I thought it was just a nice sort of farm-ish, rustic-ish kind of fabric that would work quite nicely for Wilbur the Pig. He is full coverage, although obviously the background is not stitched, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. I'm not saying I'm about to start a sort of full coverage Heaven and Earth design or a Mirabilia or anything at that level, but I'm really loving seeing the image emerge as you stitch in, you know, seemingly random ways, and the pig sort of come out of that. It's a little bit like when you do colour by numbers as a child, and you're sort of putting in the colours, because the chart is not in colour, it is just a black and white chart with symbols. So it's and I was a bit nervous about that. I wasn't sure how much I would enjoy that, but actually it's been fine. And yeah, I'm really enjoying how that goes. So I've sort of done page here and a page here, and I'm working on this page up here, and then this page obviously will have the most stitching on it, but it's making good progress. I've only been working on it a couple of weeks, maybe at most, might even be just a week. No, I think it's probably a couple of weeks, but I'm always keen to pick it up in the evenings and get some in on it. So yes, and so that will be a hoop finish, and then that I think is the last thing I have room for in the sort of row of things on my wall that you can't see. Let's see if I can just show you that. Above the beam, yeah, there you go. You can see there's the little see if I can get these two. So no, this one, there we go, that's a caterpillar cross stitch. That's the Emma Conda one, Here Comes the Sun, and this one is the penguin one, and then the others are various things. The pigeon coop design is going to go in place of this home here, and no, Wilbur is going to go in place of home, and pigeon coop is going to go in place of this little one. That is a Hello from Liz Matthews, Hope, Celebration Small. I don't like it up on the wall, and I've got another place in mind where that's going to go. So that then sort of completes that wall. I do think I might make more that can go up there and have things to swap around, maybe seasonally or maybe just when I feel like it. So I think I'm okay having a little stash of sort of hoops or other circular finishes that can go up there, first of which will be Wilbur. So that's that, and then I think this is the last thing that I've actually done stitching on, and I did only start this about a week ago, but goodness me, I'm enjoying it. So this was the thing that kicked it off. I had bought some fabric, I'm going to talk to you about haul in a minute. I bought some fabric from XG Designs on Etsy, and she included this little sample piece. This is 28 count, I've now lost the label that came with it. I want to say it's 28 count cashel. Does that sound right? Yeah, there we go. I think it's this. Yes, it is. 28 counts Vigart cashel linen in the colourway terracotta. And I looked at it and I just thought, well, that is enough to stitch something on. It's only little. You only stitch something little on it. I'd quite like to stitch something little on it. And then I thought about the colour and what would I stitch on it. And I just thought, well, I don't want to stitch, I don't know, like pink flowers or hearts or anything like that. I don't think they'll work at all on that terracotta background. And then I got in my head the idea of a bee. I just thought, I don't know, I just thought a bee would look really great. So that, as you can see, is what I have stitched. And I had Googled for free cross stitch patterns for a bee, and I hadn't really found any that I liked. They were very sort of small and cutesy, and that wasn't quite what I had in mind. But I also didn't really want like scientific anatomical bee either. I wanted something in between. And then I remembered that a year or so ago I bought this when it came out. I think it was last summer it came out, and I bought this and I was like, I wonder if one of those patterns has a bee on it. So again, this is Emma Congdon from Stitcherovia. They are all, let me see if I can find the page that has, yeah, there you go. You can see this is the sort of contents page, and they are all, well, bigger pieces, shall we say. Some of them are quite big, some of them are sort of smaller hoop size pieces, but they're all quite big and complex. But they have brilliant little motifs within them, and I suddenly thought, you know, I'm not sure I'm ever going to stitch any of those whole pieces, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But I really like the way that she's designed the individual motifs, and I found in there, here we go, this one, and you can see hopefully right at the top of that is a bee, and it's a lovely bee. And I didn't want to stitch the whole design, but I wanted to stitch that bee. So that's what I stitched on this little piece of terracotta fabric from XG Designs. And it is stitched more or less as charted, except, I don't know if you can see this. Let me just see this. These stitches, the yellow stripes, oh, there you go, I think you can see it there. Instead of using cross stitch for those, I did turkey stitch. And then turkey stitch is one where you stitch it with loops and then you cut it and it's fuzzy. Because you know how bumblebees are, like really furry and fuzzy, and I just thought, oh, that would be really fun. I'll do that. So that's what I've got on those. They're fuzzy little yellow stripes. And then the other thing I did on the wings, I'd outlined them in the yellow, but I just thought I don't want them to look brown. You know, I don't want them to look like the colour of the fabric. I want them to look translucent like wings. And so I got out my DMC Etoile in Blanc, which is not white, but you know, anyway. And I stitched the veins of the wings using one strand of Etoile. And I'll just say, a lot of people don't like stitching with Etoile, and I completely get it. My experience is that if you just use one strand, it's absolutely fine. If you try and use two strands of Etoile, it's a nightmare. So if you're working on a fabric that really needs two strand coverage, I don't know what you do about that. But for what I wanted on these wings, it's just enough. And I don't know if you'll be able to see the sparkle on the camera, but it's there, and it's just enough coverage of the fabric with the Etoile Blanc thread that it feels like it's translucent. It feels like you're seeing the fabric through the thread. And that wasn't charted. I just did a sort of like a hatching stitch almost. They're not really back stitches, they're just hatching stitches across the whole thing. I don't really know how to describe that, but hopefully you can see a little bit what I did. So I finished that, and I was like, I don't really know what I'm going to do with that. I don't really want to have a whole lot of framed miniature animals. But what I do really like doing, and again is very helpful if you're in a small space, you can't always display everything. I don't have flat surfaces to put a whole lot of flat folds or things like that. What I do have is a little bit of bookshelf space. So I'm going to make a book. I'm going to make a cross-stitch fabric book of animals. I'm calling this my small and great project. If you're on Instagram, you can follow it with hashtag small and great. So they can be small animals, but they have to be great animals. They have to be great fun to stitch and great to look at. That's my thing. They can be any size actual animal that you're representing. And I just thought it's a brilliant way of using up little scraps like this that you might have left over from projects or samples that are sent to you. This came all nicely serged. The other bits I've done, you'll see, are not nicely serged. So I looked through my fabric stash, and I also have ordered some fabric especially for it because I'm quite excited about it. And I just thought, actually, they can be any kind of fabric. I don't mind what count it is or what colour it is. I'm just going to be able to my plan is that they'll all sort of be stitched together, and each page will have a new animal on it. And I've been looking at some bookbinding tutorials, and I'm going to try and bind it in quite a nice way as well when we get to that point. So since then, I think I stitched this exactly a week ago. Let me show you what else I have stitched, because like I say, I've been having fun with this. I have stitched a little robin and a worm. These are all from the Emma Congdon book at the moment, by the way. Little robin with a worm. Oh, he's so cute. That fabric, oh look, I've still got the label on it. That is Fibre on a Whim 40 count silver fox. So some of these, and this is quite a lot of my haul, I basically have been buying fat 16ths. So you can get those for £5 or £6. They're not expensive, and I think they'll make each one about 4 pages for my book. So that is the second one, Robin with Worm, or Early Bird. This is like the miniest thing I have done. Look at that little rhino. He measures 1.25 inches across and less than 1 inch from top to bottom, I don't know. But look how cute he is. So that is stitched on Fibre on a Whim 40 count old gold. Mini, mini, mini small and great rhino. Love him. And then the last one I've done so far, this is stitched on 32 count Belfast linen in charcoal / slate grey. This is my sea creatures page. And look, they're so fab. I haven't got it. I think I need to go back and put some black for eyes on these. I hadn't quite decided what I was going to do to that. But anyway, little mini lobster, seahorse. I don't know, is that a prawn? I think it might be a prawn. I'm not sure. They were so much fun to do. And I just love how they shine on that dark grey fabric. So, I mean, I've got loads more in the Emma Congdon book that I still want to do. There's a little shark I want to do. There's a snail that is absolutely adorable. There's a fox and a deer, maybe the hedgehog, the lion and the giraffe. So it's just great. Oh, there's a little parrot that I think I'll do. All sorts, but also you could take motifs from anywhere. You know, often on samplers there's a little dog or a deer, or on, you know, any kind of bigger design. There's often just small animal elements, but you don't have to do animals. You could do the same thing, just picking out your favourite floral elements from bigger pieces, and, you know, and find little freebie charts as well. Or houses, if you love stitching houses, you could just make a little book of cross-stitch houses. So it's not quite the same as the sort of cross-stitch journal where you stick different pieces in and write about them and decorate them. This is just going to be the cross-stitch itself that is going to form the pages of the book. Watch this space. But also join me if you want to. And like I say, the hashtag for all of these on Instagram is #SmallAndGreat. Small things that are great to stitch. You don't have to do the book finish if you don't want to. You can even use the hashtag if you're stitching the motif as part of a bigger project. But for small animals that are great to stitch, that's what I'm using at the moment. So along with those, I also bought Fibre on a Whim 36 count espresso. That's that. So that's a sort of warm pinkish brown. I bought, some of these were from Lakeside Linen and some of them were for Patchwork Rabbit and some may have been from somewhere else. I can't remember. This is, what was it called? I can't remember. It's got some like really sort of boring businessy kind of name to the fabrics. And anyway, so this one is a kind of buttery yellow, and this is the same fabric that is this kind of pinkish clay kind of colour. And I have got this, which I thought had a label but doesn't, so I now can't tell you what that is. The label has come off it. I don't know. I'll have to look up. I can put a list below. But a sort of mottled sky blue-ish sort of colour. Looks like it might be 28 count, might be 32 count. Not sure what that is. But anyway, so all of those can make a lot of pages for my small and great book, which I'm looking forward to. The reason I actually ordered fabric from XG Designs was to get this. This is green peas, and it is, I think this is also 28 count casual. And again, it comes nicely serged around the edge and ready to use. And this is for a pattern, which again I bought as a PDF, so I will just put a picture up to show you. It is a pattern from Tiny Modernist, and it is for a biscornu. I've never done a biscornu before, and I really wanted to try, and she has some really fun designs. Mine has got these sort of mushrooms and gnomes, and when I was looking on XG Fabrics Etsy shop, she had this piece, and I just thought, well, that's perfect, because that is a piece that is the size of 2 squares. So if you've never done a biscornu before, you end up stitching 2 squares for a front and a back, but then you sew them together like offset on a diagonal, and so you end up with a really fun 3D sort of shape. I can't make it like this, but when I've stitched it, I'll show you what that looks like, or you can just Google biscornu and you'll find out what it looks like. So that's what that is for. That is green peas from XG Designs. And the last thing that I have been buying, I think, is this. I have also got another caterpillar cross stitch pattern somewhere, but I don't know where it is. I'll find out. I'm going to take this out of the bag. I am certain if you've watched any Flosstube videos before, you will have seen this. This is Jack Rabbit by Cottage Garden Samplings. It is the first one in their series, In the Woods. Is that what it's called? A Year in the Woods. No, it's not the first one. This is A Year in the Woods number 3 from Cottage Garden Samplings. They're releasing one of these patterns every month with a different animal featured, and you know, in this just lovely style with these you know, graphic designs in the animal. I love in the ears and the little house in the background, and then the flowers. I am not going to do the whole series. I have no interest in stitching 12 of these things. I'm going to stitch 1 of these. And what I am thinking I might do with this, because at this point I then had books, cross-stitch books buzzing in my head, I think I might use the finished piece of this to cover a book, an actual hardback book. And I just think that would look beautiful on the cover of a book, and then decide what to do with the book. I might, you know, just get a book from a charity shop or somewhere like that, cut out the inside pages and like make my own journal pages maybe in it, or make it again some kind of textile sampling book inside or something like that. But I just could see this on the cover of a book, and I haven't decided what fabric I will use or what floss I will use. It comes in mostly DMC with 2 fancy flosses that you can use, but also they have DMC alternatives. So I haven't got anywhere with kitting it up. I think I am going to do it on 40 count, at which point it says the finished size is 5 inches by 6.5. But again, I sort of need to compare that to book sizes and see if that's a reasonable size. I definitely don't want to. So for 28 count, for example, it says 7 1/8 by 9 1/4. That would be an enormous book, and I don't want to do that. So I'm thinking probably it will be 40 count. It might be 36 count when I've measured it up to see. But I won't be starting that anytime soon. I'm really enjoying Wilbur, and I want to finish him. And I'm loving the little small and great project, which, you know, that will be an ongoing project while I'm doing other things. I can stitch one of those, depending how big it is, in a couple of hours, certainly in an evening. And so that will be ongoing. I do want to finish the Pringles can project and sort of refinish it as well with my soul. I want to finish Wilbur, and then I think the next thing I want to do is the biscornu and probably the other Caterpillar Cross Stitch club kit that I have got. So I don't know when I will get around to this. It may be quite a while, but that's okay. The other thing, which is technically in progress, but I don't think I've really done any since the last time I saw you, is a Saviour's Praise. I've got that kit. Well, maybe I have set it up since I last showed you, but I've got that kit. It is attached to a rolling frame on a floor stand that I don't really want to dismantle and show you, and I do not have a big start on it. I will put in a picture of where I've got to. The plan was that that would be my morning stitch while I'm listening to my Bible in a Year podcast. I haven't been well enough to really do a morning stitch. And I also thought it might be a Sabbath stitch. I haven't really done Sabbath stitching. So I would really like it to become both of those things at some point. And, you know, when I get into a regular habit of stitching it, I will certainly keep you updated with that. But at the moment, it's not really getting anywhere. So that is, I think, where I'm at with my stitching. This is one future plan I have. But I also just wanted to mention another idea that I have had, to see if I can garner any interest in it. I have been watching quite a lot of Flosstube while I've been unwell in particular. And one of the things I've been quite jealous of is people who are going to stitch conferences. These are mostly in America, although not entirely, and participating in exchanges, swaps, people stitching things and swapping them for other people. And they, you know, often at an in-person conference, there will be an organised exchange. Now, I'm not sure I really want to go to a stitch conference. Like I say, there are a couple in the UK, but I've never really thought, oh, that's a thing I want to do with my weekend. But I would love to be involved in a stitch exchange of some kind. And I was wondering whether anyone would be interested in stitching cross-stitch smalls for a cross-stitch small fall exchange. I use the word fall because it rhymes with small, but obviously what I really mean is autumn exchange. So some kind of autumn themed piece, a small piece. Nobody's going to be stitching huge great samplers for you. You know, it could be a small that is more or less, you know, this, which, like I say, a few hours, or it could be a more complicated small. I don't think I would count Wilbur as a small just because he's full coverage, but possibly like this I would count as a small, I think, this sort of stitching. But, you know, whatever you want. And it could be something that you just frame. You could frame it in a hoop or in a frame. You could make it into a flat fold, or it could be a biscornu, or just into a little pillow or a drum. I mean, maybe a Pringles can, if you can work out how to do that. You know, something pretty and fun that doesn't take forever to make, but would be really fun to exchange with people. I'm not really interested in it including Halloween. I think that's a sort of different category of stitching, and not everyone wants to have Halloween decor around. But autumn themed, so it could be, if it were the right sort of size, I mean, it's too big, I would not count this really as a small, but if it were the right sort of size, I feel like one of the in the woods pieces might work. There's a fox which is really sort of orangey, so maybe, you know, and has the right sort of autumny foliage in the background. Could be something just in autumn colours, could be something with autumn leaves, or you know, sort of autumn, I don't know, squirrel with nuts, or you know, something that kind of feels autumn in its theme. It could be a saying. There was a really fun piece that a lot of people were stitching last year that was something about autumn and the leaves dancing, and again, it may be too big for this exchange that I've got in mind, but you know, you could have something that was a sort of autumn themed saying. So lots of options. Like, it could be anything that is just in sort of oranges and reds and browns and therefore looks autumny, or it could be something more specifically autumn themed, and a small that is fully finished and then you know, I sort of pair people up and send them out. I guess, I don't know. I mean, my Flosstube is tiny, and I don't know that I really will get enough takers on my own. So another thing I was going to ask is if people know of cross-stitch exchanges that are happening in the UK and Europe, maybe. I just think most of the ones I know that happen are in the US, and shipping to the US at the moment is, well, it's really expensive, and it's also really expensive for people in the US to ship to the UK or Europe, and shipping times can be really excessive, and I think that all ends up then being a lot more complicated. So I was going to say maybe the UK, maybe the UK and Europe. Yeah, so if you know of any cross-stitch exchanges that are open, then do let me know. Or if you would be interested in taking part in one, or interested in organising one that I can take part in, or if you think I should organise one, let me know in the comments, and we'll see maybe whether that ends up being a thing. But I just think that would be quite fun. I think I've got to the point where my life is more or less full of all the cross stitch that it needs. So I'm looking for reasons to stitch that are not simply, oh, I could put this somewhere nice in my house. I want to send them away. I know you get one back, but you know, then that's a different thing because that's a present. That's not a piece that I've made for my house. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. I will be working on lots more little small and great stitches. Hopefully I'll be finishing Wilbur. I'd love to be getting back to some progress on A Saviour's Praise. And then I've got things to start. I've got the Biscornu, I've got the Year in the Woods hair, and maybe I've got a small to stitch for a smalls exchange. We will see. Do leave any comments or questions for me below. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. It would really encourage me. I'm so near 100, and 100 is really tiny on YouTube. So just a handful more people would at least get me to that level, and I'd really like that. Like the video if you liked it. Click the notification bell if you want to know, you know, when in the next 4 years I finally managed to post another Flosstube. Hopefully it won't be that long. I'm wondering maybe a month, once a month might be manageable. We will see. And I might have some other crafts and things to show you as well. I definitely have fabric haul for other kinds of sewing that I could show you even if I don't make anything. I'm hoping to make things. I'm feeling well enough to go and make things, which is a relief. I hope you have all been keeping well, and I hope to see you again before too long. Thank you so much for watching.